The sun had just barely begun to peek over the horizon, casting an ethereal glow across the ocean. A cool breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the salty scent of the sea. In the distance, a lone figure stood on a deserted beach, staring out at the vast expanse of water before them. They were dressed in a sharp suite, their posture rigid and focused. It was on this day, as the world slept, that they made their first foray into the treacherous waters of the foreign exchange market.
The trader, who preferred to remain anonymous, had spent countless hours poring over market data and economic reports. They had meticulously crafted a strategy, honing it to perfection. As they stood there, the tension in their shoulders began to ease, replaced by a quiet confidence. They knew that the next few hours would be critical, that a single misstep could result in catastrophic losses. But they also knew that success, however fleeting, would bring with it a sense of accomplishment and vindication. The beach they had chosen was secluded, far from prying eyes and well-trodden paths. It was a place of solitude and reflection, where they could focus on the task at hand without distraction. The trader reached into their pocket, retrieving a small, handheld device that served as their gateway to the global financial network. With a deep breath, they keyed in the first trade of the day.
As the markets began to stir, the trader's heart raced in tandem. Each tick and cross on their screen represented a shift in the balance of power, a subtle change in the tides of currency exchange. They monitored the fluctuations with hawk-like focus, adjusting their strategy as needed to capitalize on opportunities and mitigate risks. The sun continued its ascent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Gulls cried out overhead, their cries cutting through the silence of the morning. Halfway through the trading session, the trader took a brief break, stepping away from their makeshift desk on the beach. They removed their suit jacket, revealing a crisp, white dress shirt that was now damp with sweat. They stretched their shoulders, feeling the tension from hours of concentration beginning to set in. A cooler of bottled water and a folding chair were the only signs that they had been there at all.
As the trader sat down and took a sip of water, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the power they wielded over the markets. They had been trading for years, but there was something special about this moment, about the solitude and the stakes. They glanced up at the sky, noting the position of the sun, and wondered how much longer they could keep this up. The adrenaline was beginning to fade, replaced by a dull ache in their muscles and a growing fatigue.
They returned to their screen, determined to make the most of the time they had left. The markets seemed to be responding favorably to their strategy, and they couldn't help but feel a twinge of pride. They adjusted their trade positions, taking calculated risks and seizing opportunities as they presented themselves. The gulls continued to cry overhead, their cries a constant reminder of the vastness of the ocean and the fragility of human endeavors. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the beach began to fill with early risers and tourists, oblivious to the events unfolding just out of sight. The trader felt a pang of envy for their ignorance, but also knew that it was part of the game they had chosen to play. They would have to soon make their way back to the bustle of the city and the responsibilities of their daily life, but for now they were free to roam this deserted stretch of sand, their only concern, the fluctuating value of currencies and the fate of their investments. The trader continued to monitor their screens, adjusting their strategies as the market demanded. The wind picked up, sending waves crashing against the shore and sending sprays of salty mist into the air. The gulls, sensing the change in the weather, took to the sky in great wheeling formations, their cries a constant haunting accompaniment to the trader's thoughts. Time seemed to pass more quickly now as the trader's adrenaline-fueled focus gave way to a sense of urgency, the knowledge that they would soon have to leave this peaceful sanctuary and return to the hustle and bustle of the city weighed heavily on their mind. But for now, They were content to remain in this moment, to bask in the fleeting sense of control and mastery that came with manipulating the global financial network from a beachside perch. The trader glanced up from their screen, squinting against the glare of the sun. The beach was teeming with people now, the early morning joggers and power walkers having given way to families and tourists. A group of children squealed with delight as they chased each other through the surf, oblivious to the fortunes being made and lost just a few yards away. The trader couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy for their innocence, their ability to experience the world without the weight of responsibility and consequence. They checked their watch, noting the time. It was nearly noon, and they had been trading for over 6 hours. They knew that they should probably call it a day, but they couldn't help but feel a sense of reluctance. The markets were still responding well to their strategies, and there was still time to make a killing before they had to leave. They hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks and rewards before deciding to push their luck just a little further. The trader stood up, stretching their arms above their head, feeling the tension in their shoulders and back. They took a deep breath of the salty sea air and surveyed the beach. The crowd had grown even larger, and the sounds of laughter and children's cries filled the air. A group of beach volleyball players set up their nets at the water's edge, their movements fluid and graceful as they spiked the ball back and forth. The markets continued to respond well to their strategies, and the trader felt a renewed sense of focus and determination. They returned to their screen, monitoring the fluctuations in currency values with hawk-like precision. The sun began its descent in the sky, casting long shadows across the beach as the day waned. The gulls, their work done for the day, took to the air in great flocks, winging their way toward the horizon. The air grew cooler, and a light breeze rustled through the palm trees. The sound of waves lapping against the shore provided a soothing backdrop to the traders' activities. A few couples still strolled along the water's edge, holding hands and sharing quiet moments. The trader glanced up occasionally, noting the changing colors of the sky and the gathering clouds, but their attention remained fixed on their screen. The markets were moving fast now, and the trader had to remain alert to every fluctuation. They felt a thrill course through them as they made a series of quick, precise trades that netted them a significant profit. They took a moment to savor the feeling, knowing that this was the reason they had chosen this life. But the rush was fleeting, and they knew they could not afford to become complacent. They had to keep their wits about them and continue to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of the global financial network. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared from the horizon, the sky turned a deep shade of indigo. The stars began to appear one by one, twinkling brightly against the inky blackness. The trader could hear the gentle lapping of the waves as they caressed the shore, and the occasional cry of a gull as it soared through the night sky. The air grew cooler, and a gentle breeze rustled through the palm trees, sending a shiver down their spine. The trader glanced down at their watch, noting the time. They had been trading for over 10 hours now, and their eyes felt gritty from staring at the screen for so long. But the markets were still active, and there was still money to be made. They hesitated for a moment, weighing the wisdom of pushing their limits further before deciding to call it a night. They knew that they had made a substantial profit today and that they could always return tomorrow to continue their work. They stood up, stretching their tired muscles and arching their back. The cool night air felt refreshing against their skin, and they took a deep breath, inhaling the salty scent of the ocean. The beach was mostly deserted now, with only a few stragglers making their way back to their hotels or rental homes. The lights of the city twinkled in the distance, casting a warm glow over the horizon. They walked along the water's edge, their feet sinking into the soft sand with each step. The waves lapped gently at their ankles, offering a soothing counterpoint to the rhythmic click of their heels. They paused for a moment, gazing up at the stars, feeling a sense of awe and wonder wash over them. Despite the long day and the late hour, they felt strangely invigorated and alive. The trader glanced down at their phone, checking the time one last time. It was well past midnight now, and they knew they should get some sleep. They turned away from the ocean, making their way back toward their hotel. The warmth of the beach was replaced by the cool air of the city as they walked through the darkened streets. The occasional car passed by, its headlights briefly illuminating the deserted sidewalks before vanishing into the night. The trader's mind was still racing, though, as they thought about the day's events. They had made some risky moves, but they had paid off handsomely. Their strategies were beginning to take shape, and they felt confident in their ability to navigate the treacherous waters of the global financial network. They knew that they would have to stay on top of their game, though, as the competition was fierce and new challenges were always just around the corner. They arrived at their hotel, a sleek, modern building towering above the cityscape. The lobby was quiet, with only a few weary travelers milling about. They checked in quickly, handing over their key without even breaking stride. Their room was on the 30th floor, affording them a breathtaking view of the city below. They paused for a moment, taking in the sight before collapsing onto the bed. The bed was soft and comfortable, and the room was cool and quiet. The trader closed their eyes, allowing themselves to drift off to sleep. As they drifted off, they could still feel the energy of the markets coursing through them. They knew that they would wake up early, eager to check their profits and see what new opportunities the day would bring. But for now, they needed rest. They slept soundly, dreaming of numbers and currency symbols dancing across a blackboard. When they finally awoke, it was still dark outside, but their body clock told them it was time to get up. They threw off the covers and padded over to the window, drawing back the curtains to reveal the first hints of dawn. The sky was tinged with pink and orange, and the city below was beginning to stir. They dressed quickly, throwing on a pair of comfortable slacks and a crisp white shirt. Their hair was still damp from the night's shower, but they didn't bother with styling it. Instead, they grabbed a quick breakfast of toast and coffee from the hotel restaurant before making their way down to the lobby. The lobby was busier now, with travelers coming and going, checking out of their rooms and preparing for their own days. The trader paused for a moment, glancing around at the faces, trying to gauge the mood of the markets. They couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen, that the balance of power was about to shift. They made their way to the business center, where they logged onto their laptop and checked their trading accounts. Their hunch was correct. The markets were in a state of flux. Several major players had made significant moves overnight, and the ripple effects were still being felt. The trader sat back in their chair, steepling their fingers as they considered their next move. They decided to take a more cautious approach for the time being, focusing on smaller, less risky trades until the dust settled. As they monitored the markets, they noticed a new currency pair that had been gaining traction. The pairing was relatively unknown, but there was something about it that caught their eye. They did some research, studying charts and analyzing historical data, and eventually decided to make a small investment.